How many times are we gonna make excuses for not taking the steps that we need to take? I just got back from the gym. I'm not sweaty because I drove with the windows down, but I still am clearly not in a high glamour as most people you would see recording their TikToks or YouTubes or whatever they put on social media. I have an issue because when I wake up in the morning, I have these great ideas and I know what I want to talk about, but that can even be a little bit more scarier than what this is coming off as. So for me and sharing my ideas, it's become a ritual. It's become a stepping stone of putting myself together. Even though right now I'm not in the most putting together, I did put makeup on though to go to the gym, which, because I went later in the day, usually I was going like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and could care less. But I'm trying these things. I'm taking the extra steps, which I thought would more bring me into my femininity. I've realized throughout these last 30 some odd years, maybe not the whole 30 some odd years, I've definitely geared more into the masculine energy. We all have masculine and feminine energies within ourselves, and the masculine is definitely the more driven, the more I don't know if organized is a word, but it's definitely the more categorized, making sure stuff is done. Where the feminine is more in a flow, and the more that I'm looking into divine feminine or like siren energy, which is a feminine energy, it's interesting how the feminine energy is so much different, but then with them weave together, the feminine and the masculine energy weave together, how powerful a person can be. And I can see this kind of looking into more successful people who have gotten used to combining these two energies together and how they play off of them in a really nice woven way. So I know that most of my videos I've typically give you ideas of what I've been going through. And unfortunately, I took the last few days off and I didn't even edit anything. And so I feel as if I'm started all over. And I know that once I get back to editing, I'm going to realize, there's some stuff that I'm supposed to be working on right now. Because in reality, it takes 21 days to create a new habit. And I know that I haven't been doing some of my ideas, my new habits for 21 days. So again, at least whenever I go back to edit, I'll have a nice refresher, a reminder of what it was that I had first started to keep doing while I gradually put in this other focus. I've realized throughout the last few years of me working on myself, of learning these new things, personal development, spirituality, whatever you want to call it. I mean, they go hand in hand because of the awakening. I became aware of personal development. And within that, a lot of the time I focused, there was a lot of blocks and there was a lot of wanting to understand. And you can say it was my analytical side, maybe my masculine energy, trying to understand what it was that was wrong with me, trying to figure out where the issue had stemmed from. Where I don't think that's completely bad. Through a lot of meditations and breath work and different modalities, there's definitely ways that you can hit those spots. And I do believe to some extent it is super beneficial to be able to go back to those time frames and be able to comfort, your younger self, your inner child during those times, and reframe and refocus the meaning that was created during those situations, during that time. A lot of our trauma sometimes comes from simple things that, now that we're adults, we blow it off and think, what of it. But as a child and growing and learning new things, some minuscule little detail we could have created and blown way out of proportion inside our little minds. And that idea, that meaning that we put on that circumstance actually flows with us throughout our lifetime if we don't take the time to recognize and to understand like where the patterns are coming from. So where I do believe in some instances it's really good to take a moment and rekindle that relationship with your inner child and understand where some emotions are coming from. I also have to say that there is a time and a place, there is a balance, and not that it has to be equally balanced, but I believe that you can only dig so far. You can only focus on that, on trying to heal what you don't even know is wrong before you can only do that for so long until it's time to take the next step. And take what you've learned through that healing and move on into the future. Because in reality, if you're always looking at the past, you're always looking at your childhood, you're always looking at where things went wrong, where you need to fix things, you're living in the past. So then it's weird because you're living in the past, but then if you are aware of calling in and manifesting, then you're living in the future. And so there's this weaving, this balancing of understanding things from the past and healing yourself and forgiving yourself or comforting yourself, whatever the situation may be, so that you can feel worthy for what it is that you are desiring in the future, right? But we're missing a part. If you're only in the past and you're only in the future, then you're not focusing anything on the present. While I believe if you're anything like me, you're awake from the autopilot, so you're not doing the exact same things. You're aware of different patterns that you may have been doing when you were on autopilot. So you're taking steps. And another thing that came to me is maybe it doesn't have to be so drill focused. Maybe it doesn't have to be, if, again, in the book Psycho-Cybernetics, there's a part where it tells you, like, it gives you this insight where you can literally tell your mind before you go to sleep what you want to work on, and your auto mechanism will actually create the answer, will come up with the answer that you're looking for while you're sleeping. So it's running on autopilot, which brings me to the importance of being aware of your thoughts and being aware of your mentality, of how you see your outcomes to be. And I'm not talking about toxic positivity. For a long time, I was in a toxic positivity cycle, where as long as I just made sure that I was always thinking positive thoughts, then I thought everything was going to be okay. And while that's not completely wrong, it's also not realistic. Like, we're human. We're going to have times where shit's just going haywire. We're going to have doubts. We're going to have worries. It's whether or not we dwell on those doubts and those worries. What I've come to learn throughout, especially these last few weeks, I've been really working on pulling myself out of the spiral doom. When I do come across the doubt when it comes to a future desire, future outcome, I've realized that it does no good. It really does no good to sit here and create different scenarios of how things could go wrong, when I could take that same energy and I could focus on how fucking awesome it would feel, and to believe that I actually already have that desired outcome. Like, really setting the intention and the focus on the feeling of already receiving it. Because that's how you magnetize. And I feel like because we tend to be conditioned to always worry and doubt and always think of the worst case scenario, that we do that on autopilot so easily that it's become so natural that that's typically what manifests. That's what we've been searching for. That's the evidence that the universe is going to bring, because the universe energy doesn't know any better. That's why they say whenever you're being sarcastic, or your words are magic, and you have to be really careful with what you say, because even though you could be joking, if you don't completely believe that joke on the internal side, then you're going to be magnetizing that joke into real life. I've read this in multiple books. I'm pretty sure I've seen it in my own life multiple times. So this is that new practice. This is that reborn, me feeling like a toddler, starting all over again, trying something new. Because clearly, spiraling out on the cycle of doom has not been doing anything for me. So why not try something that others have said works for them? So taking the time and the energy to put forth the actual desired outcome has definitely, like I said, the last few weeks I've been working on that, and it has become more natural. It took some time. It took myself a few times of catching myself in the moment of saying certain things internally that I didn't even realize I was saying. But once I said it, like it started off as a little bit after the fact of me thinking about it, I realized, and I was like, all right, so that's not gonna work. We're gonna have to reframe that. And then, maybe a few days later, something else came up, and I would catch myself, but I would catch myself in the process of doing it. So it was a little bit faster. And so I was able to reframe and recollect my bearings and start focusing more, like pretty much stopping myself, and then coming back to the more desired feeling of already receiving what it is, the outcome I would actually prefer. And now, I'm not saying that I'm perfect at this, but I have to say that I can see the progression. I can feel the progression. And while nothing has just fallen out of the sky, more so with me just taking action steps, with recording these videos, with coming up with new ideas, with just letting things out, I am seeing a difference. I am starting to reap the benefits, if you will, of shit actually fucking working out as I desire it to an extent. Like, we're nowhere near where I would prefer to be, but I can see the progression is moving forward. That those simple and small, subtle little steps are really starting to move the mountain. It's actually pretty entertaining to be aware of this, especially after I've been reading and I've been learning about this for years, for the last couple years, too afraid to actually do anything because I was afraid that I didn't know enough. I was afraid I couldn't. The biggest portion was I was prepping and I was planning, and for a long time I don't 100% know where I desire to be, but I have come to the conclusion of the feeling. Like, I want to feel at peace. I want to feel joyful. I want to feel connected. And I've taken little parts of my life of where I've been able to feel these feelings, and I know what that feeling feels like from other circumstances, and I've been taking those feelings, desired feelings, and putting them with my outcome, whatever it may be. I just know that's how I want to feel. And then it's kind of like a surprise. So it's like, whatever the hell comes, I know that I'm going to feel the way that I want to feel. And honestly, who doesn't like a good surprise? So I'm kind of excited. We'll see how this goes. I just wanted to come on and say that don't give up. If you've started something and you're not for sure how or what exactly it is that you're trying to get to, but you know that wherever you're at right now is just not going to cut it, I invite you to be graceful with yourself. I invite you to take it slow. Time is irrelevant. I invite you to not overlook the little steps. One big thing that I've learned in just the last couple of days is letting go of the outcome, which I've known this. They say it takes 7 times to actually something to click. And I know that the more action you take, the more aligned and the more ideas will come. So just because you get this inspiration to do one thing, that doesn't mean that that's what the rest of your life is going to be. And that's something that scared me, because I would be inspired to do something, but then I was like, I don't really want to do that for like the rest of my time. Like, that doesn't sound fun. That's not where I want to be. But in fact, that little step that was inspired to do has now turned into a whole new idea of different inspirations that are like levels. It's like they're building upon each other. And while everything is temporary, so that little bit that I'm learning and those not so desirable steps is compacting to make the end where I believe, because I trust, shit's gonna be fucking amazing here soon, my friend. So, that's all I have to say today. And I'm excited. So, I guess that's where we're at. All right, have a good day.